This here is my 2023 setup. I know, it looks really cool, right? You probably noticed the monitor first. This is the Samsung CRG9 49-inch ultra-wide monitor. Let me tell you right off the bat, this thing is amazing for focused productivity sessions. You can open up all the relevant tabs for your tasks and split it up into different quadrants of the screen, which is super clutch for those long working hours. Not to forget, this monitor is 120Hz, which is really good for gaming. Although I don't play a lot of games on this monitor, I do play the Liftoff FPV drone simulator from Steam on this screen to practice my drone flying skills. The controls are super responsive, and the immersive ultra-wide screen almost makes it feel like you're flying the actual drone with the goggles on. This ultra-wide is perfect for scrolling around video editing timelines and viewing trading charts if you're into that sort of thing. However, I have noticed a bit of backlight bleeding while using this display, especially when the screen is showing something darker. The bleeding isn't so much noticeable when you're facing the screen directly, but when you view it from an angle, it is quite visible. Overall, this doesn't bother me too much, and the pros outweigh the cons for me all day. I enjoy having this excessive screen real estate, and not to mention, it looks really cool on my Instagram setup shots. When I was talking about the monitor, did this light bar thingy catch your attention? Well, this is the BenQ Halo light bar, which is just super clutch for late night working sessions. This essentially helps reduce eye straining from looking at the bright monitors and lights up the surroundings for a more comfortable nighttime working session. This light bar has various different temperatures and brightness modes you can set it to. It also has a sensor to make the light adapt to the perfect lighting for your current environment's lighting. Oh yeah. Now on the Halo version, you have an extra added backlight, which helps add a separation between the dark walls and your monitor. The puck is now wireless too, so you have the freedom of placing it wherever you want on the setup and not being restricted by a cable. Although the puck is really cool, this thing moves around too much when you're trying to adjust the light settings. While it isn't a huge problem at all, it would have been nice to have a stronger grip at the bottom of the puck. All in all, I actually love having this addition to my setup. It helps massively with those late night scripting sessions. Let me know in the comments below if you think it should stay here on top of the monitor. I nearly forgot, this monitor is quite heavy. It's 11.5 kgs without the stand, but I've managed to mount it on the Ergotron HX monitor arm. At the time when I purchased the Ergotron HX, it was the only mount I could trust holding this massive monitor up without tilting or having the arm bend over time. So if you do purchase one of these, you can rest easy knowing your monitor will be where you left it. The swivel and height adjustments are easy and free. This mount is super solid and well built. This super solid and well built does come at a cost. You can pick one up anywhere from £230 to £290 in the UK. Yeah, I know, as if the cost of the monitor wasn't enough. Another slightly annoying thing I've noticed about the arm is the cable management. It can be a little flimsy and annoying to pop back in. Overall, for the confidence of my monitor staying upright and not tilting is good enough to have one of these on the setup. The last thing I need is to cheap out on the monitor arm just to find out the monitor's on the floor. Not to forget, the floating vibe of the monitor is really cool and definitely saves a lot more space on the desk as opposed to using the stand the monitor came with. That thing was ridiculously wide. You're probably wondering why save space and put this desk shelf right in its place instead. Well, believe it or not, this actually increases the space on your desk. It adds a nice layer to my setup and acts as a nice place to put things down when shooting or other miscellaneous items. Without the shelf here, I'd only be able to put one set of items across the desk. But with this here, it gives me more flexibility and essentially more space. Overall, I like this in my setup. I like the convenience it provides and how it looks and feels on my setup. So shout out to the Desker team for hooking us up with this addition to our setup. That's not the only shelf we have in this setup. Directly above my monitor, I decided to mount this wall shelf from Grovemade. And I have to admit, the floating vibe is crazy. I like the way there's no exposed screws or long metal holders running down the bottom of the shelf. I like the design a lot since it looks really different compared to the other stuff out there. It's a really nice spot to put my drone and other camera stuff when I'm not using them. All while looking really aesthetically pleasing and adding a nice character to my workspace. But moving on to the beast that's powering the entire setup, the Mac Studio. Apple released this machine last year, and after seeing how powerful it would be for my work, I had to purchase one right away. I literally do everything on my Mac Studio. Video editing is such a breeze using DaVinci Resolve 18. Timeline scrubbing is super responsive, and I have not experienced any lags with a bunch of 4K clips clustered on the timeline. Playback within Resolve is also super smooth. I mainly use Affinity softwares for my photos and thumbnail edits, and all these have been running really efficiently. However, If you want to use the Mac Studio at full resolution 120Hz on this 49-inch display, you need to purchase a high quality cable. I got mine from a brand called Belkin on Amazon and it's been running really well so far. Not to forget, this machine has all the ports I imagine a creator might need. But if that's not enough, you can pair it with one of these Satoshi mounts. It gives you plenty more ports to play with while just taking up one C-type connection from the back of the studio. I really appreciate the micro SD card slots too. This helps when I want to edit my drone footages that can only take micro SD cards. Can't forget the headphone ports too. Apple leaving theirs on the back side of the device could be annoying to reach for all the time, so Satoshi came in clutch with this one. But as a lifetime Windows user, moving to the Mac was godsend. Everything is just so much nicer to use. It doesn't take up much space at all on my setup and it's just super quiet even when running heavy video editing. It's just the perfect machine and definitely found itself a space on my setup. Also, thank you to my mother for hooking us up with this cool plant. I like the way it adds a nice touch to my workspace. Right beside the plant, I put this oak catch-all tray which just acts as a quick throwaway for my wallets and keys. I just like this here and my stuff is always there, easily accessible when I need it. This was a very cheap addition to the workspace which I picked up from Amazon. Now onto the peripherals, which I've decided to use as my daily. I use this full-size MX Keys keyboard from Logitech as my main keyboard. I used to use my custom mechanical keyboard which I spent a shit ton of money on building last year, but nothing beats the wireless flexibility of using the MX Keys keyboard. The travel between the keys are really amazing and it kind of reminds me of the keypad from the MacBook Pros. The color scheme also fits really well with my Mac Studio and the setup itself. I really enjoy having the keyboard being able to simultaneously shift between 3 devices all within the click of a button, something that wasn't possible with my custom keyboard. The battery life is also insane with these MX keys. One charge will last you a month or 2, maybe even longer if you keep the backlight turned off. I literally have nothing bad to say about this keyboard and I recommend you purchase it right away if you're looking for a wireless keyboard. Not to forget, it's super silent and if you've got essays to type all night long or scripts, then this would definitely come in clutch. Pair it with the MX Master 3 and you're golden. I'm still using my MX Master 3 even though the 3S has dropped. It just wasn't a worthwhile upgrade for me, but this mouse is really cool. I like the way it feels on your hand and the wrist when you're using it for long periods. The infinite scroll is absolute clutch if you need to scroll through large documents, timelines, or even charts if you're into that sort of thing. The side wheel is also really cool for video editing timelines. You can quickly move around and get to where you need. Back and forward controls are literally a necessity today, and this has it all with an extra thumb button added to the bottom. These buttons are programmable using the Logitech app, so go crazy on your customizations. Like literally just go cop this combo already. I can vouch for these any day of the week as reliable long-term keyboard and mice. This little piece under the mouse is purely for aesthetics now. I did get this from Delta Hub team to check out, but I've just not been able to get used to it. I find it quite irritating for longer uses and find myself shifting it off to the side. I really did make an effort to make this work, but it's just not something for me. I do like the brand and everything they create. A lot of people have said plenty of great things about it and it just could be me with a slightly negative experience with this. But it does look really cool under the mouse and gets a ton of questions on Reddit. I also have a wooden wrist rest from Keychron when I used to have the Keychron K8 as my main keyboard. I've decided to keep the wrist rest and since I find it very comfortable for longer typing sessions. Without it I feel like my wrists were too low. And if you're typing for longer sessions, this could increase wrist fatigue. It was a nice and cheap addition. All this rests on my merino wool felt desk mat from Nice Supply. This was the best option for me in the UK and let me tell you, this is seriously comfortable. The wool used is super high quality and after just over a year of use, it hasn't bubbled up or discolored in any areas. I added a lighter grey corkback mouse mat to add a bit of contrast and separate the mouse from the rest of the items. I like the aesthetics of it and how comfortable it is when using the mouse for long hours. I would only complain about the grip the mat has on the setup. It could have been better as this slides around too freely, but it's a minor issue and I'm alright with that. Anyways, moving on to the speakers. These are from Edifier. I got them a year ago and I was lucky enough to get a pair for free to check out from Edifier. These are the R1 280dB in black. The bass on the speakers are serious. The speakers are super clear, the audio doesn't distort as you increase the volume as some cheaper speakers do. These speakers also come with a wireless controller, which can be a little gimmicky having to really press the buttons for it to work properly, but it does work. The speakers are wired or Bluetooth, so it does give me the flexibility to connect it to my phone or Mac Studio whenever I want. These are my first ever pair of speakers and I do like it. I like the bass and that alone makes the music sound a million times better. Talking about audio devices, I've recently upgraded to the Shure MV7X as my main microphone. I used to get roasted online for having the HyperX mic, and now I understand why. The Shure MV7X just gives a more deeper and richer sound compared to the HyperX, which used to sound a lot more digital or static. The Shure MV7X requires an XLR connection to a Focusrite, which helps the Mac record audio in a format it can read. I paired the Mac with this cool neon green cable, which I think helps add to the aesthetics of my entire workspace. The Focusrite Scarlett Solo helps you control the audio and gain from the mic to my audio recording platform, which is Audacity. So far, I like the way the mic sounds and the deeper and more natural sound from it. All this is hooked up on my Throne Max mic boom arm. I just think this arm looks really cool, and not having the springs exposed makes it look a lot better. Like all mic mounts, you can adjust the tension of the joints and move it around as you prefer. Just remember not to unscrew these joints all the way, as it's not recommended. Cable management on the arm is also pretty decent. Apart from the clips popping out with minimal tugging, you can raceway the cable through this, giving a cable-free look. Talking about cable free, this is my MagSafe charging dock from GroveMade. I must admit, the walnut on this looks and feels really premium. It does have a heavy base to make sure the dock doesn't move around when you place your phone on and off charge. I also really like the fact you can rotate it from portrait to landscape mode, which just makes it really fun to have a podcast or YouTube video going on in the background. However, this doesn't come pre-installed with a charging bit, so you have to fork out another $40. But I guess if you want your stuff looking nice, you gotta pay the price. This matches my setup really well and looks super clean, making my phone float while charging away. I nearly forgot to mention, with the Deska desk shelf, the team also hooked me up with these two walnut planter pots. Now I know they were meant for plants, but I decided to put my pens and other miscellaneous items in them. Eventually I plan on putting a plant in one of them, but for now these act as my pen pots. They do have some weight to it, and heavy weight means good quality, right? Everything mentioned so far all sits on top of my standing desk from Medasite. I've paired the standing desk with this IKEA Saljan countertop, as it's a lot more durable and looks more better than any normal tabletop. The standing desk from Medasite has 3 programmable height buttons, which I've programmed to, one being my sitting height, one being my standing height, and the other being my AFK height. The max height of this frame is 119 centimeters. This controller also has a child lock mode on it, so it prevents any unnecessary accidents. After a year of use, I have no complaints and it still functions perfectly. Now, I'm not going to discuss this drawer. Who doesn't have an Alex drawer for their setup these days? With IKEA Ragusa felt organizers inside. They just add a nice layer of organization inside the drawers and make it look a lot more better. One of my latest and most expensive pieces to the setup, the Herman Miller X Logitech G M-Body. I saw plenty of my favorite creators with this chair on their setup and realized I need something better for the long run to avoid lower back pain in the future. I picked this up immediately and realized it's nothing like your normal office chair. The back is designed to adapt to your own spine and help you stay upright while supporting your posture. I could sit hours without needing to stand up or stretch. The chair had a thin layer of foam padding and directly underneath a suspension mechanism that makes it feel the way it does. This also ensures that over the long run there will be no damaged foam sinking you into the chair. The arms are pretty adjustable. You can move it up and down using the trigger, as well as pulling it outwards and inwards. On such an expensive chair, it would have been great to have forward and backward movements, but yeah, they didn't include that. On the armrest, I've decided to put external cushion covers from Amazon. They just add a layer of protection and feel amazing on your elbows. If you're sitting at the desk for long hours, you should definitely consider purchasing a really good chair. You don't have to buy this Herman Miller M-Body, but something that will work for you. I can vouch for this chair all day, but it's quite expensive. But this M-Body chair does 100% support your posture and keep your lower back pain free. Finally, onto my favorite part to building any workspace/bedroom, the lighting. On the desk, I've decided to go for the Nanoleaf Essential Light Strips. I've removed the LifeX since they kept breaking on me, so fingers crossed these inexpensive high quality lights from Nanoleaf will last a longer time. The lights are bright and can be controlled within the app. There's so many colors and effects to choose from, so you decide what you want to do with those. Behind my headboard, we have the LifeX beam, which is actually one of my favorite pieces. This beam gets really bright to the point where I light the entire room with just a beam. It's connected to each piece via magnet. Again, it's really well built and diffuses the light really well compared to having exposed RGB strips everywhere. Back onto my setup again. Decided to put the moonside lamp on this empty corner space. I like the way it fills in this blank space on my desk. It is app controlled, and again you have a bunch of colors to choose from and effects. I just like leaving it on this signature green for my setup. Back to the wall beside my bed. This is another one of my favorite pieces I've added into the room. The Nanoleaf panels really fill in this blank spot in my room. Although they cost a lot of money, they definitely function really well. Same as the light strips, they have a bunch of colors, effects and themes to choose from. I like leaving it on this color fading effect. I nearly forgot about these behind my monitor, the Govee bars. They really add a nice ambient lighting to the setup, and I love having these turned on when I'm working at the desk. It helps add a nice tone to the workspace. The app is a little gimmicky, but they've improved over the years a lot, so fingers crossed they will brush up on the app. All in all, the Govee lights are bright and very good for what they are. That finally brings us to the artwork I've put up on my walls. And I got 4 of these Cause Bear style from some cool creators on display. I like the way these add some personality to my blank walls. I purchased them all in the large size. The medium was just not going to make the walls look any less blank. However, I did put a medium size one beside the wall shelf. And that's my 2023 small bedroom / office space. But apart from that, this is where I plan to make a lot more videos for the channel and hopefully grow to new heights. Drop a subscribe to show your support and let the algorithm know you enjoyed this setup tour by leaving a like. Oh yeah, don't forget to shoot me a DM on Instagram if you've subscribed and want a free wallpaper pack. Till then, I'm out.